Below is an immersive, single continuous narrative told in the voice of an experienced storyteller. Set in a bustling city where every heartbeat of the hospital echoed secrets and ambitions, this dramatic tale weaves together passion, betrayal, and the unexpected consequences of a fateful encounter. Please settle in and let the unfolding events carry you through a labyrinth of emotions and suspense as I recount the extraordinary story of a celebrated doctor and a determined patient. A story where love, anger, and deception intertwine in a delicate dance that would change lives forever. I remember the day as if it were carved in the annals of time. A day when the sterile corridors of the city's renowned hospital became the unlikely stage for a conflict that would ignite a chain of events so tumultuous that even the most hardened souls would shudder at the thought. The hospital was a place of both hope and despair, a microcosm of life's fragility where every whispered conversation in the waiting room carried dreams and secrets alike. In the midst of this controlled chaos worked Dr. Asad Farooqi, a man whose reputation for brilliance in medicine was rivaled only by the enigma that surrounded his personal life. With his steady hands and a mind as incisive as a scalpel, Dr. Farooqi was admired by colleagues and feared by those who dared to question him. His eyes, a piercing gray that seemed to read into the very depths of one's soul, had witnessed countless moments of life and death, but none would ever compare to what was about to unfold. On one particularly humid afternoon, when the stifling heat mingled with the antiseptic chill of the hospital, a woman named Malik arrived at the emergency entrance. Sana was no ordinary patient. She carried with her an intensity born of hardship and determination. Her delicate features, framed by raven black hair, masked a fierce spirit that had weathered more storms than most could imagine. Though she was admitted for a seemingly minor injury, a complication from a chronic condition that had plagued her for years, the tension in her eyes spoke of battles fought far beyond the realm of medicine. That day, as fate would have it, the first sparks of a tempest were set alight between Sana and Dr. Farooqi. Their initial encounter was anything but gentle. Sana, known for her unyielding candor, had never been one to accept the cold, impersonal manner often associated with the clinical world. When Dr. Farooqi entered her room, his calm demeanor clashing with the sharp edges of her frustration, an argument ensued. Sana accused him of dismissing her concerns, of reducing her pain to mere numbers on a chart. "You treat us like we are cases, not human beings," she had shouted, her voice trembling with both anger and sorrow. Dr. Farooqi, though equally incensed by the unexpected outburst, maintained his composure, replying in measured tones that were at once both condescending and laced with genuine regret. The air in that sterile room grew heavy with tension, a tension that promised not resolution, but rather a conflict that would soon spiral into something neither could foresee. In the days that followed, the echoes of their confrontation reverberated throughout the hospital. Whispers spread among the staff, and even the most indifferent seemed to take note of the palpable animosity that now defined the relationship between the celebrated doctor and the headstrong patient. Yet, as with many things in life, what began as a clash of wills soon evolved into a more intricate dance, a precarious interplay of defiance and fascination. Sana, despite her bitterness, found herself drawn to the enigmatic Dr. Farooqi. There was an undeniable magnetism in his confidence, an allure that made her question whether her anger was solely directed at his clinical detachment or at something far deeper. It was during one of those long, restless nights, when the hospital corridors lay shrouded in a quiet, almost conspiratorial darkness, that their relationship took an unforeseen turn. Sana's condition required further evaluation, and an appointment was scheduled with Dr. Farooqi. This time, however, the encounter was unplanned and unguarded. As she sat in the softly lit consultation room, waiting for her turn, the sterile hum of machinery seemed to blend with the rhythm of her own heartbeat. Dr. Farooqi entered with his customary air of precision, but something in his eyes betrayed a vulnerability rarely seen by his colleagues. In that fleeting moment, the hostile tension between them dissipated, replaced by an unexpected intimacy that neither dared to acknowledge openly. Their conversation began with clinical detachment, the usual litany of questions and observations, but soon meandered into uncharted territory. Sanaa spoke of her struggles, not just with her health, but with a life that had seemingly been stacked against her at every turn. Dr. Farooqi, in turn, shared fragments of a personal history that he had long kept hidden beneath layers of professional pride and calculated reserve. What started as a therapeutic dialogue transformed into a confessional, a sharing of souls that blurred the boundaries between doctor and patient. In those stolen moments, as they exchanged half-truths and unspoken promises, a fragile connection was forged, a connection that would, over time, become an all-consuming passion. As days turned into weeks, the hospital became their clandestine haven. In the midst of late-night rounds and hurried consultations, they found solace in quiet corners of the hospital, an unused storage room behind the radiology department, a secluded bench in the garden outside the main building, and even the dimly lit corridors where they could speak freely away from prying eyes. Their exchanges were laced with danger and desire, a potent cocktail that both excited and terrified them. Sanaa's defiance began to soften into a tentative trust, while Dr. Farooqi's clinical detachment gave way to a growing vulnerability. They were two lost souls finding refuge in one another, their connection born out of mutual pain and the desperate need to be understood. Yet, as their secret tryst deepened, so did the complexities of their emotions. Dr. Farooqi, whose life had always been meticulously controlled, found himself ensnared by a passion that threatened to unravel the very fabric of his existence. Sanaa, too, was conflicted. The allure of forbidden love was as intoxicating as it was dangerous. Each stolen moment was a reminder of the delicate line they both walked between desire and self-destruction. The hospital, with its sterile white walls and relentless beeping of machines, bore silent witness to their evolving bond, a bond that was as thrilling as it was perilous. Then, as if fate itself had decided to intervene, circumstances conspired to test the limits of their fragile affair. A routine medical procedure for Sanaa took an unexpected turn, leading to complications that required immediate surgical intervention. The hospital was thrown into a frenzy, and the corridors that had once provided a sanctuary for their secret meetings became battlegrounds of urgency and fear. Dr. Farooqi, torn between his duty as a healer and the demands of his own heart, found himself making decisions that blurred the lines between professional ethics and personal desire. In the sterile chaos of the operating room, as monitors beeped in a desperate rhythm and the smell of antiseptic hung heavily in the air, he realized that the price of their passion might be higher than either of them had ever imagined. For Sanaa, the ordeal became a crucible, a moment when the fragile hope of their illicit love was tested against the harsh realities of life and death. As she lay on the operating table, the boundaries between her dreams and her pain blurred, and she was forced to confront the undeniable truth that the love she had found in the arms of a man who was supposed to heal her might ultimately be the source of her deepest wounds. Dr. Farooqi, with every precise incision and every calculated decision, fought not only to save her life but also to hold together the fragile threads of their connection. The tension in that room was palpable, a living, breathing testament to the dangerous game they had embarked upon. In the aftermath of the surgery, as Sanaa slowly recovered in the intensive care unit, a new phase of their relationship began to emerge, one marked by uncertainty, regret, and the creeping shadow of betrayal. While the hospital staff marveled at Dr. Farooqi's skill and dedication, whispers of his unconventional methods began to surface. Some said that his focus on Sanaa had clouded his judgment, that the boundaries of his professional life had been irreparably blurred by the intensity of their affair. Others speculated that the passion between them had been too consuming to remain hidden forever, and that the fragile trust they had built was doomed to fracture under the weight of expectation and guilt. For Sanaa, the days following her surgery were a paradoxical blend of gratitude and torment. Each sunrise brought with it the bittersweet reminder of the life she had clung to, the life that had been marred by both suffering and the sudden, unexpected joy of love. In her quiet moments of reflection, she found herself oscillating between the euphoria of their shared passion and the gnawing suspicion that something was amiss. It was as if the very air around her had grown thick with secrets, and every shadow in the hospital corridor hinted at hidden truths waiting to be revealed. Dr. Farooqi, too, was caught in a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. His love for Sanaa was genuine, born of moments of vulnerability and shared dreams. Yet a part of him remained shackled by the responsibilities of his profession and the expectations of society that revered him as an untouchable savior. The whispers grew louder with each passing day. Whispers of a doctor who had fallen prey to his own desires, of a healer whose passion had led him astray. And as the murmurs of discontent reached the ears of those who had long admired him, a darker side of his character began to emerge. It was during one particularly quiet evening, when the hospital had settled into an uneasy lull and the night shift was only just beginning, that the first definitive crack appeared in the fragile veneer of their secret. A chance encounter with a longtime colleague, Dr. Saima Qureshi, set off a chain reaction that neither Dr. Farooqi nor Sanaa could have foreseen. Dr. Saima, perceptive and unyielding in her commitment to the truth, had noticed subtle discrepancies in Dr. Farooqi's behavior. The way he lingered in the corridors, the extra care he took with Sanaa's file, and the furtive glances exchanged between him and his patient. All these pointed to an affair that defied the strict code of medical ethics. At first, Dr. Saima's concerns were met with denial and defensiveness. But as the days passed and evidence mounted in the form of hushed confessions and half-heard conversations, the truth began to seep into the sterile walls of the hospital like an insidious poison. Rumors, like ripples in a once calm pond, spread among the staff and soon reached the ears of those who wielded power over the institution. And as the net of suspicion tightened around him, Dr. Farooqi was forced to confront the stark reality of his actions, reality that was as inescapable as it was devastating. For Sanaa, the revelation was a crushing blow. The person she had trusted implicitly, the man who had promised to be both her savior and her forbidden lover, now stood revealed as a man capable of treachery. The betrayal cut deep, leaving scars that went far beyond the physical injuries she had once endured. In the quiet of her recovery room, as the steady hum of the machines filled the silence, she wrestled with a torrent of conflicting emotions: love, anger, despair, and the bitter sting of betrayal. Every memory of their whispered promises and stolen moments now carried the weight of deceit, a reminder that the passion they had shared had been built on a foundation of shifting loyalties and hidden truths. Yet, even as the hospital became a battleground of personal and professional ethics, the story took another unexpected turn. Amidst the chaos of investigations, administrative hearings, and the public relations storm that threatened to engulf the institution, Dr. Farooqi began to distance himself from Sanaa. His once fervent declarations of love turned into perfunctory reassurances, and the tender glances that had once lit up the dim corridors were replaced by an indifferent, almost mechanical demeanor. It was as if the very magic that had bound them had been siphoned away, leaving only the cold remnants of a passion that had once burned so brightly. As the days turned into weeks, the fallout from their secret affair rippled outwards in ways that neither of them could have predicted. The hospital, once a sanctuary of healing and hope, had become a crucible of scandal, a place where every whispered conversation was laden with judgment and sorrow. Dr. Farooqi, now facing the consequences of his actions, found himself entangled in a web of legal battles, professional censure, and the unrelenting scrutiny of the media. The public, ever hungry for tales of moral downfall and human frailty, pounced on every detail, painting him as a cautionary figure, a man whose brilliance in the operating room was overshadowed by the darkness of his personal failings. In the midst of this storm, Sanaa stood alone, grappling with the realization that the love she had once believed to be her salvation had been nothing more than an illusion, a mirage that had evaporated in the harsh light of reality. Her heart, battered and bruised by the relentless assault of betrayal, began to harden. No longer was she the fragile patient who had once confronted Dr. Farooqi with fiery indignation. She was now a woman transformed by pain and resolve. In her silent, solitary moments, as she stared out of the hospital window at the indifferent night sky, Sanaa vowed that she would no longer be defined by the wounds inflicted upon her by a man who had claimed to care. Instead, she would rise from the ashes of her shattered trust, determined to reclaim her dignity and chart a course for a future free from the chains of deceit. But the story does not end with Sanaa's quiet defiance or Dr. Farooqi's professional ruin. It deepens into an intricate tapestry of suspense and human complexity that continues to unravel with every passing moment. For as the investigation into the affair pressed on, hidden motives and long-buried secrets began to emerge. Colleagues whispered about past transgressions, about rivalries and alliances that had fueled the scandal long before the affair even came to light. It became evident that the truth was not a simple matter of right and wrong, but rather a labyrinthine interplay of ambition, vulnerability, and a desperate yearning for connection in a world that often demanded perfection at the cost of one's soul. In quiet meetings held behind closed doors, a shadowy figure from Dr. Farooqi's past emerged, a former mentor whose influence on the doctor had been both a blessing and a curse. This enigmatic character, known only as Professor Rahim, had once been a towering figure in the world of medicine, celebrated for his groundbreaking contributions and revered for his austere wisdom. Yet, beneath the veneer of respectability lay a man haunted by his own demons, a man who had always believed that the pursuit of greatness came at an exorbitant price. As whispers of Professor Rahim's involvement in matters of the heart and the mind began to surface, it became increasingly clear that the scandal surrounding Dr. Farooqi was only the tip of an iceberg that extended far into the murky depths of human ambition. It was during one fateful night, when the hospital lay shrouded in a cloak of near silence, and the rain tapped softly against the windows like an insistent reminder of mortality, that the final twist of this tragic tale was revealed. Dr. Farooqi, now isolated in his grief and desperation, arranged a clandestine meeting with Professor Rahim in a deserted wing of the hospital, a wing long abandoned and overgrown with the ivy of time, where echoes of past glories and regrets intermingled in the dim light. In that forgotten corridor, surrounded by relics of a bygone era, the professor laid bare a damning truth. The affair with Sanaa had been orchestrated not solely by the impulses of passion, but also by a calculated manipulation designed to cover up deeper, more insidious failures in Dr. Farooqi's career. According to Professor Rahim, the doctor had been under immense pressure from influential figures within the hospital board to maintain an impeccable record, a record that now teetered on the brink of collapse. The passionate liaison with Sanaa, far from being an act of pure love, had been a desperate bid to salvage his reputation and deflect attention from other, more damning discrepancies in his practice. In that moment, as the torrential rain outside mirrored the storm raging within their hearts, Dr. Farooqi's carefully constructed facade crumbled entirely. The man who had once inspired awe and admiration now stood exposed as a flawed, tormented soul, capable of betrayal, manipulation, and moral compromise. The revelation sent shockwaves not only through the hospital, but also through the very fabric of the community that had once placed its trust in him. The fallout was swift and unforgiving. Investigations were launched, careers were shattered, and the once sterling reputation of the institution was left in tatters. The scandal, with its intricate web of deceit and ambition, became a cautionary tale, a lesson on the perilous intersection of passion and power. As the days turned into months, the echoes of that fateful night continued to reverberate in hushed conversations, in the anxious glances exchanged between staff members, and in the quiet determination of a woman who had learned, at great cost, the true meaning of betrayal. Sanaa, scarred by the ordeal yet unbowed, embarked on a journey of self-discovery and healing. Her path was fraught with the memories of lost trust and shattered dreams, But with each step, she reclaimed a fragment of the strength that had once defined her. Her transformation was both tragic and inspiring, a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming adversity. And so, dear listener, as I bring you to the close of this lengthy tale, a tale that spans the gamut of human emotion from the soaring heights of passion to the crushing depths of despair, remember that in the delicate interplay between love and ambition, there exists a price too steep for the soul to bear. The story of Dr. Farooqi and Sanam Malik is not merely one of scandal and betrayal, but a mirror held up to the complexities of human nature itself. A reminder that even the brightest lights can cast the darkest shadows, and that in our quest for redemption, we may sometimes lose sight of the very truths we seek to uphold. This is a story that lingers long after the final word is spoken, a story woven from the threads of love, loss, and the inexorable consequences of choices made in moments of vulnerability. It is a reminder that in the labyrinth of life, every decision carries with it the potential for both salvation and ruin, and that the most profound journeys are those that force us to confront not only our own desires, but also the hidden darkness that lies within. As you leave these words behind, may you carry with you the lessons of this tragic saga, a saga that is as timeless as it is heart-rending and as unforgettable as the pain of a love betrayed. In the end, the corridors of that fateful hospital still whisper the secrets of what transpired on that rain-soaked night, whispers that echo in every quiet corner, in every shadow, and in every heartbeat that dares to dream. And as you listen, dear listener, let the tale of Dr. Farooqi and Sanam Malik serve as a solemn testament to the fragile nature of trust, the devastating cost of deception, and the enduring power of the human spirit to rise, even from the deepest depths of despair.